the new Maze Runner movie?
I thought it was just okay. I don't know. I'm glad. I really am glad that you liked it. I felt that it tried too hard to be every other serious middle chapter of a movie franchise. It's like
You know what I honestly think that this was the best effort for a YA movie. I liked it. Okay, this sequel because I didn't like the first movie, the Maze Runner movie. I
yeah,
thought it was boring. I thought it was boring and insipid,
yep.
so bland. But this one was just filled with action, and the pace just kept moving forward. And it deviates wildly from the book. So if the purists are going to be angry about that, but the changes made, I thought were pretty smart, and it made the movie just flow so much better. Uh,
I felt like it was pretty strong in that sense, but it felt like they were moving so quickly and trying to cram so much in there that I just didn't know what they were doing. So I don't know.
well, I guess since I read the books, I kind of know what's behind the scenes,
Yeah,
and I actually what you liked about it, I didn't like. I didn't like Giancarlo Esposito. I,
really.
I I don't. You know what really sets me off when people say Hermano. Like this guy's supposed to be a Hispanic character, right? And he says Hermano all the time throughout the whole movie. It's not even ironic. It's so stupid. It ticks me off. So that
Maybe
turned me off. And Alan Tudyk's 15 seconds in the movie were just extremely hammed up for me. I was kind of disappointed with that.
he was super hammy, but I kind of liked that. I was happy with it.
I
So
could have done without all that ham stuff. But overall, I thought it was pretty good. It's not the movie of the year at all. It won't be. I don't think it was shooting for that. I just think it was shooting for a being a pretty cool action flick, which is what it was. And
yeah,
I actually enjoyed this YA movie more than the last two Hunger Game movies.
I
Ooh,
dis
I
no,
practically got with that
I
one.
no, I liked Mockingjay Part One a lot. I was just kind of meh on Catching Fire, so but I mean, I thought the first Maze Runner was super boring, and so the best thing
Right.
I can say is, yeah, this is way, way, way an improvement above that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but
Cool.
let's stop talking about the Maze
That's all.
Runner
Yeah.
and how my Grinchy heart is two sizes too
You're
small
right.
for not liking Scorch Child. And because we've got so much to talk about with Doctor Who,
Right.
we've got a new season. First, I want to talk really quickly about what's going on with the podcast and um, things to expect in the coming weeks and months. Um, we are at the point where, with new episodes coming out, I want us to focus on that and talking about those episodes as they come out every week so that we're keeping up with that. Now, I have a problem because I'm still a season and a half behind. So it's going to take me 2 or 3 weeks to get there. In the meantime, we're just going to have you, Mark, and Melissa. Uh, y'all are going to be the ones who do the reviews. Um, but that means we're also going to have less space in the podcast. I'm going to try and have us be shorter, closer to an hour. And so I'm going to cut us off at the amount of episodes we're going to talk about per week. So I'm going to start watching further and further ahead. So, for instance, this week, I'm almost all the way through season 7, but we're only going to talk about the first 6 episodes because I just, otherwise, we'd be here for too long. And I personally want to get to season 9 as soon as possible, but I think for the sake of the podcast, we're gonna have to slow down on how many episodes we do per week so that we're giving the proper amount of attention to the new episodes. Um, so, uh, speaking of that, Mark and Melissa, tell us what you thought about the season premiere.
Man, I was so happy. We're back to the Doctor Who that I love. The whole world that Moffat created, we're back to that. Season 7 sees a little bit of a slowdown with that halfway through the season. Basically, after the Power of the Three, I think it starts to really slow down, and especially after the Angels Take Manhattan, we see a complete tonal shift, and it takes a while for the show to recover. And then we had the first season of Peter Capaldi, which was very uneven. With this first episode of season 9, it's back, and it's back in a big way. We see Missy come back, and she's wonderful, and we get to see the Doctor in a moment of crisis once again. But the way it's handled, and the way Peter Capaldi has now owned his character of the Doctor, I think we're headed for really good things. What do you think, Melissa?
Yeah, I really love this compared to last season, and it's funny because I've talked to a few friends of mine who are Who fans, and they seem pretty lukewarm about this episode, and I don't understand why I liked it so much and they were so lukewarm. And like a couple of my friends in England, I have two friends in England, they were both kind of like meh, you know. So it's weird that you and I both loved it, and then like it seems like everybody else just sort of eh. Like, I mean, are we in some weird bubble or something?
No, I don't think so, because
Yeah.
all of my friends from their reactions on Twitter and Facebook were like, that was what I've been waiting for. That's
Okay,
what I wanted.
Yeah.
So,
And I wonder, though, if some of it is that last season was so disappointing overall that maybe anything by comparison would be better. Remember, like in season 3, there were a couple of really mediocre episodes, but compared to the rest of season 3, we were like, hey, this is pretty good. You know, like I have to wonder
yes.
if there's a little bit of that effect going on. In season 8, for me, it wasn't quite as bad as season 3, only because I think I liked Clara better than uh, what's her name?
Amy
Martha?
Pond?
No, not Amy.
Better than Martha?
Martha. Thank you.
Oh,
I
okay.
Yeah.
her name. Um, Clara, I have some issues with, but I don't hate her the way a lot of Whodom seems to hate her. I'm sort of wishy-washy about her still at this point, because sometimes they use her really well, and sometimes they have no clue what to do with her. But with Martha, I think they knew what to do with her, they just didn't, you know. And so for me, that's why season 8 is a little better than season 3. And I'm not trying to poison the well for you, Andy, or anything, but it's better to go into season 8 with lowered expectations. That's all I can really say to you. So I have to wonder if some of my excitement over last night was part of that, you know, part of that. Season 8 overall just wasn't very good. There was only one really standout episode that I liked, and then a couple of pretty good ones, and the rest were just ranged from mediocre to god-awful. And for me, that whole opening right before the opening credits last night, that whole in the hand mind, that alone was better than pretty much anything last season. I mean, that's pure Moffat right there. When Moffat is on, he's really on. And for me, that hand mind, that was so creepy.
Yes.
And that's classic Moffat, like thinking of something to just creep you the hell out, like a high concept thing that really gives you the heebies. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and here's the thing, that he threw such a gigantic bone to classic Whovians, because not only was the hand mine thing pretty cool at first, you know, because they speak so fast. I
I
thought,
didn't understand what he said, right?
well, I thought he said landmines, and I'm like, is he saying land or hand? And then we see it.
Like I was
Right.
like a ham sandwich. Like what is he talking about?
And then we see it, and then the focal point is the child, and then the doctor's there. You see the sonic screwdriver, and then you're like, oh, of course, you know, doctor's gonna save the kid. But when he asks the kid for his name and he says it,
Mm-hmm.
that was such a gigantic bone thrown to classic Whovians, and I shrieked like a 3-year-old child, because I was like, oh, I know this, and I can't believe we're seeing the origin of this character right now. And
Yeah.
now I fully understand why this character turned out the way he did, because this is the Doctor's fault. But the episode ends that way too. Is the Doctor going to go through with it? At the end of the episode, the Doctor is so screwed that no matter which direction he takes, this character wins. And it's just so beautifully done. Like you said, that was the opening before the credits, and at that point, Moffat had already hit a home run for me.
Yeah.
I was so into it, and I just couldn't wait till we got rid of the credits and rid of the commercials so we could jump right back into it.
Mm-hmm.
So I've heard a little bit that it ended on somewhat of a cliffhanger. Is it kind of the classic Who cliffhanger where you've got 30 seconds to escape from this diabolical machine, or is it?
No, it's a dilemma of moral conscience. So the Doctor has to decide whether he saves people, and by doing so, doing something completely unethical and immoral, and the character wins, or he does the right thing and he loses the people that he loves, and the character wins. Yep. So he's in a total unscrewed situation.
I don't think he's gonna lose the ones he loves. Look, they disappeared. Missy and Clara disappeared. If the Daleks had shot them, they'd be bodies on the floor. They
were disintegrated.
They teleported out, honey.
Why
would they still be wearing the, what do you call them, the Dr. Jack things?
No, I think, and this goes back to that episode of where Amy gets left behind. Remember that, Andy? And she grows old.
Oh yeah, the girl who waited. Yeah.
Remember, I told you there's a certain scene that I told you have to remember this.
Remember the garden, yeah.
I think that's where if they weren't disintegrated, I think that's where they were teleported. That place is.
They definitely. Didn't they have vortex manipulators?
No.
That's how they got to the Doctor.
Oh yeah, Missy did. Missy had the vortex manipulator, but not.
Are you sure?
Huh?
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure.
I've only watched it once so far.
The way they teleported was that Missy grabbed a hold of Clara and hit the teleporter.
I thought I swore I saw her with one on her wrist. Maybe I'm imagining things.
Clara's she's used a vortex manipulator, but she used it on the day of the Doctor, I believe, the 50th anniversary.
Yeah, I think because there would be a body on the floor. We've seen Daleks kill people before, and there's a body on the floor.
We've also seen them disintegrate people.
Yeah, yes. I think they just teleported out, and we know they're not dead either way. There's going to be some timey-wimey thing that'll bring them back. We know they're not dead, but I don't think that they're even. I'm a little confused as to whether they expect us to think they're actually dead. I think
they do because at the cliffhanger, the Doctor's going to kill that person in question, and he says, "I'm doing it to save my friends." Because if he kills that character, the character's not in the future to kill his friends.
Maybe, but I thought he could have meant, like, all the people the Daleks have killed over time, because if he kills that person, the Daleks never exist.
This is true. Yes, you're right.
That's the way I took it. You
see? And this is the classic, and Andy
would both got such different reads on this.
Yeah, Andy will appreciate this because this is the classic. Will you kill Hitler if you go back in time and Hitler's a 6-year-old child?
Yeah.
We've discussed this before.
And another bone to Classic Who is that he's been through this before in Classic Who. With Sarah Jane, where he could have killed a kid.
Yeah.
And to stop like a mass murder or something later, and he, he's like, but he said he made that choice. At the time, he was like, it makes me no better than them if I do this.
Right.
And so you have to wonder if he's going to make that same choice again now, because this Doctor is a lot darker.
Well, no, that's the person, the character in question. This is like you find Satan when Satan's 5 years old, and you have a chance to wipe him out. Like seriously. That would be an appropriate analogy because of the death this guy brings. through the Daleks. We were talking about billions of people.
Yeah, I mean, you go back to our very first episode, Mark, and we recorded it right after Leonard Nimoy died, and we spent a lot of time talking about
Right.
Edith Keeler, and Spock was right. Edith Keeler had to die. As awful as that was, this innocent person had to die in order for many other things to happen. Even though, so it's like, it's that awful time travel conundrum, and it's one of the things I love best about time travel movies and TV and so on and so forth, is we get into these moral ambiguities like this. So I'm excited to get there.
Yeah, it's pretty tough because if you get rid of the Daleks, you create a vacuum, and the Cybermen have been kept in check by the Daleks. So if you get rid of the Daleks, do the Cybermen multiply? Do we have to deal with all sorts of Zygons now? Do we have to deal with you have your pick of choice of enemies that would multiply if the Daleks aren't around? So it's not a simple thing as just killing the creator of Daleks and then everything's safe and peaceful and nice. I mean, it's pretty tough.
I think we
And
saw
that's the thing,
from.
not thinking clearly.
Go ahead.
Well, no, I don't. He's so emotional right now.
Yes.
I don't think he's thinking clearly. He's not thinking of the implications because, yes, you can stop the Daleks from ever existing, but what about all the people they killed, including the bad guys that they killed over time? Like, what you're unleashing something 10 times is worse by not having them. There's so many questions, and that's what he needs to be thinking about, but he's not rational right now. And he said exterminate. You know what I mean? He said damn Dalek.
Because he doesn't have a companion to keep him in check.
Yeah,
at that moment.
That's part of it, yeah.
Yeah, and I love that speech by this one character, and I don't want to spoil it for Andy, but there's that speech about emotions, Doctor. This is what causes your current dilemma, your emotions. And he got Daleks to get rid of emotions. It's just so... I can't wait till you get to this episode, Andy, because it was just so good. This is what I was waiting for all of last season.
Yeah, this is the first really, truly great episode of the Capaldi era, finally. I think one episode last season got close. It was really creepy and good, but this is better.
Did you like last season?
I didn't overall. The one episode I really loved in season 8 was the one with the monster under the bed,
But that was Listen, wasn't it?
No, that's Capaldi.
Yeah, no, Capaldi is Listen, where they go back to Gallifrey and we get to see the Doctor as a child.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that episode's called Listen.
Okay, I don't always know episode titles. Sorry, it's the one with the monster under the bed. Okay.
Right.
That one.
That's the only one I really, really loved last season.
So this is really cool, and right before the episode came out, the BBC released what I think is my favorite Doctor Who image in the history of Doctor Who. It's Jenna Coleman and Peter Capaldi flanked by Daleks walking across the road at Abbey Road, mimicking the Beatles album cover. Now, Mark, I wanted to talk to you about this because
she's
barefoot. I'm glad you picked up on that too. Mark and I are both huge Beatles fans, so this was so Jenna Coleman is barefoot, just like Paul McCartney was in the original Abbey Road, and there was this huge rumor and conspiracy theory that Paul McCartney was dead and had been replaced, and that this was the key. It was Paul McCartney was the corpse because in England they bury you with your shoes off. John was the priest because he's in all white. George was the gravedigger because he's in denim and dressed all like kind of working class, and Ringo was the pallbearer because he's in a suit or something. It was something like that. So I just thought this was so cool that they mimic that, and they're saying, yeah, Clara's dead. That's what I came out of this with, which coming on the heels of the news that Jenna Coleman is not going to be around after the end of the season. So I think that points to, I don't know what her exit might be, or what exactly is going to go on, but is she already dead? Is she going to die again? Is she going to die for the what number of time?
Well, you're not there yet, but there's an explanation for that. The Impossible Girl origin, you need to get to that in order to understand why I'm so damn curious as to how this is even going to happen, because it's not supposed to. Like, we always knew that we were going to lose it as a companion somehow, because they never stick around for too long. But Moffat did say that her end was going to be tragic. This was on a recent interview. And once you get to the origins of the Impossible Girl, the season finale of season 7, this doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. And I'm dying to find out. I'm super curious as to how it is that she's going to meet her end, because, well, it's supposed to be impossible, according to the events that happened at the end of season 7.
Well, I'm excited to get to the end of season 7 too. I was trying to get there and just couldn't. But it doesn't matter because we can't talk about it until next week.
Right.
We'll talk more about Jenna Coleman's impossible exit from Doctor Who soon. And the other very sad news is maybe we should have expected this, but a few days before they announced this, she canceled her appearance at Salt Lake Comic-Con. And many people were super, super upset about that. However, Manu Bennett is still making it. They're letting him out of jail from
courtesy of San Antonio.
Yeah, he got in a fight in San Antonio after Alamo City Comic-Con, but hopefully he doesn't get into a fight in Salt Lake. That is a guy I would not want to mess with.
Yeah, y'all leave him alone, man.
Yeah, no. Would not want to mess with Manu Bennett at all, ever. Okay, anything else about the newest episode or Jenna Louise Coleman?
I'm not entirely convinced that Missy is alive. There's something behind this because of the way she disappears after she dies. I'm doing air quotes, but I'm not entirely convinced that she is a living sentient creature. There's something really fishy going on there.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's just speculation on my part, but I have a strong feeling that there's something really fishy going on with her.
You've been suspicious of her since the beginning, which is fine. If she's really the master, you should be suspicious. I have no reason to believe she's not the master. But I know that you've been kind of suspicious of her, and I think some of that stems from the fact that you don't think that Time Lords should be able to change gender during...
Yeah, Mark, is that it? You don't think she's alive, air quote, because she's not a man, so...
No, the master, the rules don't apply to the master. If you know the history of the master, he can transfer his soul essence to any living thing, and if he possesses a female person, you know that's what he. I don't know how he does this, but he's been doing this for a long. She has been doing this for a very, very long time. And at the end, the last that we saw John Sim play the master, when he quote unquote died, his essence falls into a ring. And we see a female hand grab the ring. So he could have easily transferred into that female. But there's just, aside from that, there's just a lot of fishy things happening around her that I'm not entirely sure she is a living thing. I don't know. I'm just real suspicious about her character. I don't know where exactly they're taking it. And I'm not saying I don't like her, because I love her character. She's fantastic. I'm a little worried that she's getting a little too hammy, which is the problem I had with John Sim, the last master. I didn't like that, but I really like her right now. I
Yeah, I love
really
her.
like
I love her as she is. I'm not gonna worry about whether she gets too hammy because it hasn't happened yet. Um, so I'm just not even gonna worry about it. I'm just gonna enjoy it because after last season, I think we deserve to enjoy ourselves a little more because there were some episodes that were a real slog last season. You know what I mean? So I'm just not even gonna worry about it. I'm happy that she's there, and see, and the reason why I don't think that she has to be some kind of sentient being is because to me there's like layers to her performance. Like, remember when she was talking with Clara in the square, and Clara assumed that she was the Doctor's best friend and
right.
tried to grab his last will and testament. She's like, you're his best friend. She looked genuinely hurt that Clara would think that the Doctor and her weren't friends. You know what I mean? She looked. I mean, there was like a look of genuine hurt, and I think the last master was so over the top that you couldn't tell any layers. There were no layers. It was just he just hit the crazy button and kept going, and that was it. So for me, that's what's so much fun. She chews the scenery, but it's in this kind of exuberant way. It's really fun to watch. But this whole, like, if you're not sure she's a sentient being, I mean, would a being who's not sentient have those kinds of emotions, that shock, that hurt? You know what I'm
Yes,
saying?
the doppelgangers.
Uh,
You remember them?
yeah, like what Amy was the whole of her pregnancy, you mean?
Right.
Um, yeah, I don't know.
They could still be after the Doctor. Um, this is all just conjecture, but something tells me there's something else going on with Missy, which I think is kind of freaking fantastic because that adds layers to everything. But I just have this sneaking suspicion that we're not seeing everything.
We're gonna look back on this at the end of the season and be like, "Oh my gosh, Moffat was playing the long con the whole time here for like a season and a half with us."
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'm hoping for, and I'm hoping I get caught up real soon. Let's take a quick break, and we're gonna come back. We're gonna talk about Asylum of the Daleks, and I'm gonna cry about Amy and Rory. So there's that to look forward to. All right.
Okay, so my phone is dying, so let me see if I can get on my iPad now.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm like, what's that beeping? That's not good. Normally that indicates something bad.
Let's see. How am I? Come on. You said you had trouble getting into your iPad, right?
Yeah, but I just had to reboot it. It was fine. I don't know what it was, but it just wouldn't connect to anything. Like, the internet was just hanging, like it was something wrong with my internet, but my computer was just fine. It was loading everything just fine, so it had to have been something. I don't know. I don't think I've rebooted it in a while.
Crap. Give me just a few seconds.
Okay.
Come on. Oh, Jesus, now I gotta install a freaking Messenger.
No.
Okay, the positive part of this is that my laptop decided to turn on.
Well, hey.
Oh.
One of these two has to work.
Yeah.
Well, can't you just plug your phone in and charge it?
That's exactly what I'm doing, but I had been texting my brother on the pre-ball game, and we kind of ran it down to like 5%.
Uh-huh. Oh, so you're using more energy than it's giving?
Yeah,
Right.
that's the problem with Hangouts, is because the screen's always on and it's using all of the internet power. It like really drains your battery. So even if you're plugged in, it can still drain it.
The score is still 0-0, Marco, in case you were wondering.
Yeah. I know the Cowboys, they really don't do anything of consequence till the second half. Alright, so I got like maybe 10%, so I'll switch over as soon as this thing downloads.
Okay, well, we can wait for a second. I'm trying to see if I have any. I joined a fantasy league
Oh, you did?
with some friends, and I'm trying to remember if I had any Cowboys on my team. The name of my
I played
team.
fantasy football once, and I kind of hated it, so I never played again. Because I feel like it takes away from your enjoyment of the games. And there were a couple of weeks where I had to cheer for Redskins to do well so that I could win the week, and that's just like sacrilege, man. I could
Here.
have lost a Cowboys fan card that way.
I'm gonna share my screen with you, so you can see the name of my team.
Uh-oh.
You're gonna love this.
Washington racist.
Yep. We're the
I have
Washington.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Hey, you got some good guys. Well, Eli Manning, I don't know. Odell Beckham just knocked it out.
Yeah, I wrote my team slogan is "We're America's team." Well, not Native Americans, just white people, racist white people.
Come on. I actually should have prepared for this. I should have known this was going to happen.
How dare you?
You know.
Yeah, it's taking up our time, Marco.
Oh, shut up. Leave me alone.
Now I have to watch the football game on silent.
Tony Romo really needs Melissa's support.
What?
Yeah, he needs to learn how not to choke during important parts of the game.
That's what I'm saying. He needs all the help he can get.
He didn't choke last week.
He didn't. Thank goodness there's small miracles.
But they had no business winning that game, though. They tried to give it away so many times. It was so frustrating to watch. Like,
See, that's
both
the
teams,
whole.
it's like neither team wanted to win that game. Ugh.
This is the whole thing. So, like, BYU, the first 2 weeks, it came down to a final possession, and the quarterback, Tyler Meacham, threw up these Hail Mary passes. Both games, 2 games in a row, scored a game-winning touchdown on a Hail Mary for, like, 70, 80 yards. It was just absolutely ridiculous. And all of my friends were like, see, that just shows God loves BYU and he's on our side. And I'm just like, you guys, come on. First of all, God doesn't care about football. Second, like, if your team is actually really good, you don't need a Hail Mary to save your bacon at the end of the game. And the exact same thing happened yesterday against UCLA. And BYU was down by 1. And final possession, Hail Mary, didn't happen. And so now I'm like, hey, I guess God likes all of those godless, hedonistic Californians a lot better than us Mormons. That's what that means.
Okay, do you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, there's like an echo or something.
Yeah, because he's on twice.
Oh, okay.
I'm not trying to turn this damn thing off. There, I think I figured it out.
There we go.
Cool. We're good now?
That'll shut him up. Yep.
All right, cool.
We're good.
Awesome. All right.
Okay, so let's get back to this. So I've got Asylum of the Daleks, Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, A Town Called Mercy, The Power of Three, The Angels Take Manhattan, and The Snowmen. And I am probably going to cry at least once here. But let's start off with Asylum of the Daleks, especially as much as we've been talking about Jenna Coleman this episode. Mark, I messaged you after or while I was in the middle of this episode, and I'm like, I'm kind of I'm kind of falling in love with this girl, and with what's her name? Uh, Godwin,
God, what?
or what's her? I'm sorry. What's uh the name Clara's going by in this
Oh,
episode?
Oswin.
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 Sorry, that's what I don't know. My brain isn't working. So yeah, I texted you. I'm like, I'm kind of falling in love with this Oswin girl, and you're like, hold on, remember who wrote this? And I'm like, I know, I know. And like 20 minutes later, I'm like, I'm so pissed. I was already kind of pissed at this episode in the first place from the very first moment, because it's like the entire premise is Amy's off modeling and she and Rory are getting divorced, and I'm just like, I was seriously ready to like throw my TV out the window. I'm like,
Yep.
this sucks. This is not what I wanted from Doctor Who. How dare you? Like, you
And
can't.
then when you find out why they're divorcing, I just wanted to smash things.
Yeah.
So freaking stupid.
Well, but you guys wanted emotion. You guys wanted to know all that other stuff. You
Don't go
finally
there,
got it.
Marco. No.
I'm going
You
there.
don't get to do that, because here's the thing. We wanted
No, but this is
emotion
what you
from
wanted.
things that are naturally emotional. We didn't ask for characters to act stupid and irrationally and against everything that they've been this whole time. They're completely out of character.
To quote Pink Floyd, carrying on in quiet desperation is the English way. And that's what we got at first. And everything that was happening behind the scenes, you finally saw in this episode.
She's not English, she's Scottish.
Ha!
Well, but living in England. She was born in Scotland, but she was living in England. Don't be revisionist.
She grew up in Scotland.
Anyway, but
No.
regardless, the whole, this just felt like such a downer, and it was the beginning of an entire half season of like, let's torture Andy with how much he loves the ponds. And I got just really mad at this episode, and by the end I was like, okay, I guess. I still felt terrible and awful because they didn't need to do that. They didn't need to go there and just be like, oh, well, we can't have kids, so I love you so much that I'm going to let you go. No, I love you so much, I'm not going to let you go. And I'm just like, you two are adorable, but I really hate Moffat for like taking us there, because it felt unnecessary to like make them an arguing couple for this episode. I don't know. I was a little upset. But I liked Oswin, and I've got to say that even though we won't talk about most of them, all of the episodes that I've watched so far with Clara, she's like not even 1/10 as awesome as Oswin, and I'm really kind of upset about that. Because that was like a great character, and they were obviously having a lot of fun with her, and I just don't see that in the character of Clara so far. Am I gonna be proven wrong, or
Eventually. But yeah, this is and of course we're not going to get there till next week, but there is that lag halfway through the season, and this is a big part of why there was that lag.
Yeah. So I don't know. I want to love this episode so much, but I ended up with a lot of mixed feelings because I felt like Moffat was specifically trying to torture us, and playing
He
a lot
was.
of deep games.
Yeah, that's what Moffat does. He does that to you. He plays with your emotions.
That a-hole. Jeez.
Yeah, you're gonna have that reaction, only it'll be authentic later on, trust me.
Oh, well,
But
I already had that 3 episodes later, but yeah.
yeah. This episode for me, it would have been so much better without the Amy Rory drama. I because here's the thing, for her to leave Rory after sacrificing so much to be with him and not tell him why, I'm sorry, that's BS. That is complete
Agreed.
and total BS. Has nothing to do with emotion, Marco. It has to do with logic. She chose him. She made her choice, and she's made it clear that she would sacrifice everything to be with Rory, and then all of a sudden she's just divorcing him and won't tell him why. That, I'm sorry, no.
Because she thinks that because she thinks she is the reason why he's so miserable.
That's
At a
BS.
certain point, you have to love somebody enough to. No, well, if you want to think that, that's fine. I mean, we all have our opinions, but I'm okay with her loving him enough to let him go if she sees herself as the block to his ultimate happiness.
But since when have we ever known Amy Pond to not speak her mind? She always tells you exactly what her opinion is of everything of what's going on, and I felt that was very out of character to, oh, well, I can't tell you because it hurts too much. No. And then when it's like, and it's so stupid because any logical sane person, which I assume Amy Pond is, would see that actually, no, this isn't that big of a deal. Couples deal with this sort of thing all the time, and they don't split up. Maybe sometimes they do, but...
Yeah, for her to
No, but there's couples who split up all the time because of this.
For her to think that her worth as a life partner was ruined by her womb, that's offensive. I'm sorry, it just is. What it does is it makes it seem like women, it makes it seem like Amy thinks that a woman's worth is tied up in her fertility, and she's smarter than that. She is so like 21st century that I can't believe she would even think that.
But that's an inconsistency because
regressive.
You dog her for being a model. You did that a couple of weeks ago. So now she's this ultra progressive person. I mean, we need to decide what it is.
Herself, yes, and I dogged her being a model because she was a kissogram, then she was a model. All of her jobs up till then only had to do with her looks. They never went into why, like what drove her, what she wanted out of a career, what she wanted to do with her life, and I was criticizing the fact that the only job she ever held had to do with her looks, and they never bothered to develop a desire in her to do anything else. And a few episodes later, she's a travel writer all of a sudden. Where did that come from? Like, my criticism is of the fact that they've never developed her to the point where we understood the choices she made in her career or whatever passed for a career. It wasn't that she was shallow. She's always been assertive, and now all this, and she's made choices to where, I mean, she's made it known that she would destroy the universe to be with Rory if she had to, and now all of a sudden she's leaving him because her womb is barren and she won't tell him. I'm sorry, total yes.
I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with this because I've known of people who do exactly that. There's relationships that end all the time because of that. I wish we had a psychologist friend that each one of us had so we could bring him into the show, because psychologically people are like that. If they view themselves as the problem to their partner's happiness, they begin to act out and they opt themselves out of the relationship. This happens. It's nothing new. It's old, and a person, she was a kissogram, you said it yourself. Then she went as a model. She only valued herself for how she looked because that's the way that she got on through life. That's what she knows. And now she knows that she can't make Rory happy making him a father, giving him a baby, so she feels that she's at fault for this. This is all psychological. I'm fine with that.
And she never,
like I said, I've seen it.
How could she not even try and discuss it with him?
Yeah,
But this is what people do. It happens in relationships
It's
all
not
the
what
time.
Amy would have done.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that Amy is the type who would bottle this up, and I think she would have been outspoken. And I the one thing is I do actually like the fact that they finally gave Amy something to do outside of being a model or being a kissogram and going and doing writing. She is a talented individual who has a brain and has seen a lot of things and has done a lot of heroic things, and she should be able to use that. And I mean, ultimately, I think it was too little too late, and ultimately only in service of the plot devices that we'll get in the Angels Take Manhattan. But it
But at least
just
they gave her something in the end to do, like,
kind of.
that she could do as a career, because modeling is not really a career because, you have a shelf life as a model.
Tell that to Cindy Crawford.
Okay, with rare exceptions, Marco, give me a break. You know
Naomi
what I
Campbell.
mean. The majority of models are done by the time they're 24.
I
Okay.
don't. People make a lot of money modeling.
They
There's
can,
nothing
but
wrong with that. What I'm saying, Marco, is that they never established what she wanted out of her life. They just assigned her these different jobs, and we never, like, why did she become a travel writer? She never showed an interest in writing before, for publications or whatever. We know the travel part, but why, we never got any indication of anything she'd want to do beyond traveling in the TARDIS. Whereas, like, with Martha, we knew she was going to go off and be a doctor. With Rose, she was thinking about going back to school. She was trying to get her life together. She was really young and didn't know yet, and that was okay too. But with her, I mean, she's getting married, she's making a life commitment, and we don't know anything about her plans. They never really established her. We don't know about, and this goes back to, we don't know about her family, we don't know where she came from. All we have to go on, really, is how she acts, during these adventures. And the way she did was with assertion. She spent her whole life with everybody thinking she was a freak or something, and now as an adult she tried to assert herself, and sometimes she was loud and brass about it, but she made sure people heard her, and that's why it felt so out of character that she would never even think to bring it up to Rory and just leave him. So anyway, we could go round and round about this.
Yeah.
I think too much is being made out of this. I've gone through 4 career changes in my life, and I've never gave any kind of indication as to the career that I'm at. Like, I don't understand why that has to be declared. I never declared that I was going to be
declared, Marco,
a bank business whiz, and then but you're wanting too much. All I
want is a little character development so that her choices made more sense.
Yeah,
being a librarian makes sense for you, Marco. You're a book nerd. It makes sense. You don't have to declare it. You didn't have to.
What about a right? But what about bank manager? Everything you know about me, does it scream bank manager? Because I did that for 7 years.
You like money.
What about
fine?
You like money.
But here's the thing, Marco. We had 2.5 seasons with her, and we still don't know enough about her to understand why she makes the career choices she did, because they never talked about it.
Hold on. Like, if you let me explain, in those 2.5 seasons we had for her, there were 3 instances where the doctor went over 2 years without even seeing her. So a lot happened in those 2 years. A lot. We weren't there for them.
Yeah, and it was so easy. It's easier to do that than to actually develop the character. That's my criticism. They gloss. I mean, in sci-fi, I know they gloss over things, and especially in Doctor Who, there's timey-wimey explanations that don't always make sense, but it's timey-wimey, so we have to accept it. I get that. But the companion is the second most important character in any series of this show, and she should have at least a little more development, but we never got that with her. Yeah,
And
we
Well, did you ever get anything from Sarah Jane that she was gonna have like a unit-like following of the events in the world and have her own adventures? Did we ever have a glimpse of that in the late 70s, early 80s? Never. And yet
But
that's
the
exactly
TV
what she
was
did.
different back then. Women, I mean, were still treated with contempt on television most of the time. It's a very different era. We expect more now, Marco.
She had the
yeah,
She had the doctor by the short and curly. She was one of the most assertive companions ever. And if
exactly.
you want to ignore that, that's fine. But she was.
No,
She took over the show sometimes. But
no,
I think you're making way too much.
no. But that's exactly my point. Is she was assertive. She was very strong-willed, and yet
And I'm talking about
didn't
Sarah
they,
Jane,
no, but
not
they
Amy
didn't
Pond.
feel the need. They didn't feel the need to fill in these other details, and so there are some missing logic steps. And it wouldn't have been hard for them to do so. Again, I just think that this is sloppy storytelling by Moffat. If Amy Pond were a real person, and I wish to God she were, this would not be a character flaw on her part. This would be bad storytelling where they're intentionally or unintentionally leaving out important details that we need to know to understand her motivations and what's going on. And when those aren't there and she's acting in a way that's heretofore uh, unseen, then we have a right to say, you really needed to call that shot a little bit better. And that's my major problem with this, was that it felt more like Moffat was doing these things to elicit an emotional response from the audience who cares about Amy Pond and Rory than to actually make them organic and do things that are in character for Amy. I think it's a problem of storytelling, and as good as Moffat is on so many things, this is very, very Moffat. Is that he leaves out those important details for certain things so that he can get an emotional payoff. There's an upside and a downside to that.
And you know what? They could have easily. I would have been much happier and far less critical. The one little change, and it would have made everything better. Okay, instead of making her a travel writer, they should have maybe made her like maybe an art critic or something. Here's why.
Because of
Remember
Van Gogh.
Vincent and the Doctor? Exactly. We found out one of the few things
So,
we found out about Amy, that she had a huge interest in Van Gogh and presumably all art. We don't know because, again, they only told us as much as they needed to get the plot going.
okay, hold on. One second. Okay, so all the traveling she did with the doctor everywhere around the world and to other planets, there's no connection with her being a travel writer. But the one time she visits an artist, it's okay for her to be an art critic.
I think traveling to other
I don't
planets
understand
is
how
a
that
little
even
different
connects.
than writing about, Tahiti.
Come on. I mean, she's
Really,
been
you're
every.
going to compare? She can't tell people about her adventures. She
Of
didn't get
course
to
not.
stay
So
at
that's
a
why she.
four-star hotel on these planets, Marco. She was like trying to save the world half the time, or save a planet or something. She didn't have time to look at the amenities like the swimming pool or something.
But she's been all over the world.
Writing. But no, it's not the same. She can't talk about.
Why is it not the same?
She can't write about Manhattan in 1938.
No, but she can write about Manhattan in 2015 because she's a model and she went there.
Okay, I'm gonna cut off this conversation because I don't know that there's anything more that we can say beyond this. I mean, I think that this is a lot the same argument that we had about the second half of last season, and Mark's gonna keep apologizing for Moffat, and, and Melissa and I are gonna keep saying
You
that
suck.
we're upset about it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But we talked so much about this. I want to go almost more quickly through these next few episodes, so that we don't run out of time too much. But let's really quickly do Dinosaurs on a Spaceship. The best thing about this episode, it tells you exactly what it's about and it delivers. I was super happy about that. Boom.
What I liked about Dinosaurs on the spaceship, and I wasn't too crazy about this episode, but we had 2 Harry Potter actors, and that made me happy.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And we got to have, it was great to have Rory's dad along with us.
Right.
Who, I like that his name was Brian, and I didn't think about it until after his name is Brian Williams. So
Right.
is he going to be making up stories about, like, he went on a TARDIS and saw dinosaurs on a spaceship? Yeah, I was there. Yeah, anyway, no, that was really great, and I really like that actor, Mark Williams, who played Mr. Weasley in Harry Potter. That was great, and we also got another Sherlock crossover.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
We got what's his name, who plays the
detective
guy.
Yeah, we know who we're talking about.
That guy, and he was the game hunter here. I like that bit where he's like, this will be a 2-man job, and so Amy grabs the gun. She's like, okay, well then you can come along then too. So I'm like, yes, that's the Amy Pond I know and love, and she just takes out those dinosaurs. That was awesome. Love it.
Yeah, she handled that shotgun well for a model.
She knows her way around.
I'm gonna do that this is a whole episode. No, you know what? This episode was fun, but for me, largely forgettable.
Yeah.
It was cool, but I could have done without it.
Most of the season, I felt like they were twiddling their thumbs, and they had Asylum of the Daleks, which was really weighty, and then they had the Angels Take Manhattan, which was really weighty, and then in between they had 3 very fluffy, forgettable episodes that were fun, but were just kind of out there. I liked the 2 robots as well. They were really dumb.
Oh yeah.
I hated them. I did. Ugh.
Oh really?
It felt like a robotic gay stereotype to me. That's all it was.
Oh no way.
Yes, that's how.
Can robots be gay?
Can they? I don't know. It was very Red Dawn for me. It was so Red Dawn. Yeah.
What do
you guys never saw the
mean
show?
Red Dawn?
TV show, sci-fi TV show.
Oh, I thought you were talking about.
Where's Patrick Swayze in this? What?
Exactly. Wolverines.
Okay, I'm glad I wasn't the only one who didn't understand that. I was like, what do you mean?
No.
No, I think I'm confusing with something.
You mean Red Dwarf?
Red Dwarf, that's what I meant.
Oh, okay. Then yes.
What's wrong with me?
No.
Arguing
you
with
say
people
Red
really
Dawn,
messes
I'm
with
like,
my
dude.
mind. But yeah, it was very Red Dwarf for me.
I agree in that it was very Red Dwarf. Okay, on to A Town Called Mercy, which of the less weighty episodes I thought was the most interesting in that it presented that moral conundrum about war, and you had that character of the other doctor who created the cyborg gunslinger, and the question of, well, violence doesn't solve anything, and so he has to sacrifice himself in order to move things on, and the parallels between the 2 doctors and the choices that they've had to make and the weight that puts upon them. He says, like, my people have a legend that when you die, the spirits of all of those who wrong you climb on your back, and you have to climb up a mountain. And I hope that they'll be kind to me. You're just like, whoa, that's a pretty big deal. And then on top of that, it's always cool to have futuristic stuff in the Old West. I like that, even when it's done poorly. I like it.
You know what I really liked? I liked that Amy really was at odds with the Doctor here, and we get to see not a disillusionment, but a complete loss of faith in the Doctor on Amy's part.
Finally.
Yeah, we're seeing it happen, and it's quicker, and it's getting deeper. And she was certainly at odds with him, willing to even shoot him if he didn't stop. So I like that. And it once again, all these episodes, while they were pretty cool and fun, I don't think this one is forgettable like the dinosaur one. It was pretty cool, and it did have some weighty subjects, but it started signifying the end. The end is coming soon.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to explain it. I guess I was getting nervous as I was watching each subsequent episode because I had a feeling I knew what was coming, and I just wanted to get to it. You know, like when you're reading a real good book and there's still 3 chapters to go, and there's a lot of fluff, and you're like, I know what's gonna happen, dude. I want to read this quick. That's sort of the way I felt with these episodes.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get to it.
And one thing I did not like, though, is when Amy's willing to shoot the Doctor and she puts the gun like down, and then she accidentally fires off like 2 shots into the ground. It's like she just killed, or not killed, but stunned like 10 dinosaurs on her own with that like laser blaster. Don't tell me she doesn't know how to handle a 6-shooter. Like, okay,
it was probably a half-pound trigger.
It was funny. Oh, you're saying she isn't strong enough?
No, I'm saying that the trigger's too weak. It's easy.
Oh, okay. A hair trigger. Okay, gotcha. Okay, just as long as you aren't. Don't say mean things about Amy Pond.
Yes, leave her alone. Jesus.
Leave her alone. Melissa, any thoughts about this?
Yeah, I thought it was fun. Like Marco, I had a feeling of dread because we knew it was coming in just a few episodes, and we didn't really know exactly what, but we had a feeling it wasn't going to be good. And does it ever really end well for the companions? I mean, there's always a certain level of sadness or just downright tragedy. You know what I mean? I think out of all the companions, honestly, Martha got off the easiest, and that's after her parents were slaves for 2 years to the master, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, that's, we know something bad's coming, and they kept kind of telegraphing it throughout these first 4 episodes, I feel like. And I don't know if you remember last time we said that there was like a sense of dread over all the episodes.
Yeah.
Even when they were kind of a little lighter, like the last one, there was still that sense of impending dread. But, remember that movie, Cowboys and Aliens? I wish it had been fun like this episode.
I do.
That movie kind of ended up being bad, and I liked the concept of it,
Yep.
but to me it wasn't fun. This was more fun than that. I wish it would have been a little more like this.
I agree. But that was exactly what I was thinking of, where I said I like futuristic stuff in a cowboy setting, even when it's done poorly. I was specifically thinking of Cowboys and Aliens. That was not a horrible movie, but it was not as good. It wasn't as bad as Scorch Trials.
Oh, geez.
Okay. Let's move on to the power of 3. Let's talk the power of 3. Little black cubes invade, and the Doctor hangs out with Amy and Rory in their house for a year.
Okay. You know what I really hated about this? And so all week long we were told there's this new episode of Doctor Who, right? And in the commercials, there is that scene where he's talking to the cube, where he says, these are my people. I care for them. They mean a lot to me, and I will protect them. I thought the entire episode was going to have that gravitas to it. So when we finally got this episode, there's a lot of meh going on. And I was kind of disappointed. I still am disappointed about this episode. Because once again, it's just slices of the life of the Ponds, and we know what's coming. And I expected like a gigantic threat and the 3 of them to be working together throughout the episode, and we did not get that.
Yeah, I kind of agree, and knowing that the next episode was going to be so big, I was like, you guys are spending a year together and you're wasting it on this. I don't know. I mean, I guess it gave Amy something that she wanted, where she got to spend, all of that time with the Doctor, which was nice, and it was nice to see them interacting in that. It was nice to have Rory's dad back, and him watching the Cube, and Brian's log was probably my favorite joke of the
Yeah,
entire episode. But yeah, there just wasn't a whole lot here, and I felt that it was kind of wasted.
I agree.
yeah, it felt like moving all the pieces on a chessboard before you make your attack. It was just like it felt like a really long prologue to the next episode, basically.
That's a real good analogy.
Yeah.
No.
It was an exceedingly long prologue to Angels in Manhattan, and there were little spots like his dad, watching the cubes and keeping his log that were really cute. And you're right, I do like the fact that it was wish fulfillment for Amy, but did they need to spend a whole episode on it? Nah, probably not, because it did sort of drag, especially because we knew what was coming. You know what I'm saying? Like, if we didn't know that the next episode was Amy and Rory's last, I think it would have not been so bad. But that feeling of impending dread just made it seem even longer.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. That's exactly how I felt about it. So let's dive into Angels Take Manhattan. And I am going to cry a little bit here. I had to explain to Andy what happened to Amy and Rory,
Oh,
and
man.
why Clara was on the episode instead of Amy, and like she got so upset, and it's like, no, and I'm like, but it's okay. They ended up back in time with one another, and they love one another. So, which is like the lie that we're telling ourselves of why what happened to Amy and Rory wasn't 100% completely tragic. But that was awful. I mean, I really thought they were going to get away unscathed, and this was going to be okay, well, we caused this massive temporal paradox, so that means we can't travel with you anymore, and so that means we can't see each other again. I thought it was going to be something like that, and Amy and Rory would get to go on living their lives, but just away from the Doctor, and that would be the sad part of it. But it was so much worse.
Right.
And God damn you, Stephen Moffat.
That last scene was Loki spearing Agent Coulson through the body. That's exactly what it was, because we think everything's going to be great, and then all of a sudden, Rory's gone, and we know what happened to him, and then we know what's going to happen. What I enjoyed of this episode, I shouldn't say enjoyed, or what I appreciated in the episode, was the palpable desperation that the Doctor exudes throughout the entire episode, knowing there's a fixed point in time. He can't fix this. He knows the rules. It can't be fixed. And yet, rule number one, Doctor lies, but he also lies to himself. He thinks they're going to make it. And then he's surprised when they finally, quote-unquote, make it. And then when this happens, he tries to convince Amy, come with me, we'll make it right, I'll find a way. That desperation to keep them with him was just so palpable and painful that this episode was just almost too much. It hurt, because these two became my all-time favorite companions. They were. I mean, Amy, I almost fell in love with her from the start, but more so with Rory as he came on and he started to get a bigger role. I love that guy.
Yeah.
And he was the first to go, and it just hurt. It's so unfair. It was unfair. The unfairness of it all was what really hurt, and the fact that we weren't going to be seeing them again. And I didn't. After this episode, I didn't want to get used to a new companion. I didn't want to go down this road again. It kind of soured the experience for me. But the way the Doctor emotes throughout this episode, especially at the end, is excruciatingly heartbreaking.
Well, and I can't even remember who it was to, but he promises someone it's like, not them, not her. I will make sure that they're okay, and I promise that they'll be all right. And or if it wasn't in this episode, it was in one of the previous episodes.
He promises Rory's dad.
Yeah.
That's what it was. He
Yeah.
promises Rory's dad, and it's just like.
And that's a gut punch, too, because they weren't going to continue to travel with him, but Rory's dad told them in the previous episode that they should.
Oh, that's true. Right.
Yeah, he's the one who encouraged them. He's like, who gets this chance? Which he was right. I mean, he didn't do anything bad. He was, I mean, if I were in his position, I'd probably tell him, yeah, who the hell gets a chance to do this? You go enjoy yourselves, you know? And, and so you can't imagine the guilt he must have been feeling all these years. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
once he would have figured out what happened. I mean, can you imagine if you just said that to one of your kids and they ended up getting transported back in time with no hope of coming back? I mean, the guilt must be crazy. And he's such a good guy. You know, I mean, he's not like Donna's grandpa level, you know, because nobody will ever get that level for me. But I really liked him. And so just the thought of him knowing that he encouraged them to leave, so many little things like that just kind of hurt, you know?
Yeah.
But I got to say, all the creepiness, like the expanding the angels to include like all the little cherubs on the fountain,
Oh my gosh.
the Statue of Liberty. I mean, wow. You know, that was creepy fun. I gotta say, that little part. I mean, because, you know, as if the angels aren't already creepy enough, you know. Yeah, that's some real nightmare fodder right there. If I lived in New York City with all those gothic buildings and, you know, angels and cherubs everywhere, I don't know. After that episode, I might have stayed indoors or something for a few days. But yeah, I did have issues with this. Just the way it ended was rough, you know. But the only thing that gives me any kind of solace is that at least Amy got to choose. You know, she made her choice, and she made the choice not to go back at all about what we were arguing earlier. But it was consistent with what we know about her, that she would always choose Rory. And so at least she got to choose. I mean, Donna didn't get to choose. Yeah. You know, Rose didn't get to choose. So at least in the end, as sad as it was, she made her choice. You know, it sucks that she was put into a position to make it, but at least she got to choose. And she made the choice we expected her to. And you know, it's rough, but there is that little bit of solace compared to, like, Rose and Donna. For me, at least.
And the only other piece of solace is if I had to be transported back through time and I knew I was going to live through the 40s and 50s and 60s in America, like starting from my age, that wouldn't be so bad.
Yeah.
So I mean that could be okay.
It wouldn't be so bad for you as a man. It might be tough for Amy as a mouthy as she is.
This is where that argument comes in.
For her to be as assertive as she is and to always be speaking up, I can't imagine what kind of trouble she might have gotten herself into.
She's screwed.
But maybe she was hanging out with Betty Friedan and all of them, and she.
We can only hope. You know, she's the type of person who would attract people like that. You know what I mean? Like, you could see her in a room with a lot of luminaries, historical luminaries, who might have accepted her. That's all we can hope, because we don't know. You know, but yeah, I you know, but at least she is getting to see, like, historically, you know. And the thing is, in that time in America, the fact that she's Scottish, they might have just dismissed her mouthiness as being Scottish. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, well, she's not from around here. You know, like.
Yep.
So there's chances that she was gonna be. You know, she got through this okay. She finds a way, I'm sure. and I don't think she
She
would
wrote a
lie
book.
about being happy, you know, when she wrote the afterward.
Right.
Yeah. Well, she not only wrote a book, she wrote at least two that we know of, which leads me to believe she probably wrote others. I'm hoping she wrote others, and I hope that Rory was able to parlay his knowledge of medicine into, I mean, basically being a nurse in like the 2010s is the equivalent of being a doctor times 5 in 1940. Like, you just know way so much more. And I hope that I just hope that whatever happened to them was okay. I mean, it's totally tragic, but oh,
But they
and
came
it,
out. It's hard, but they came out way better, I think, than Rose or not Martha. Donna did.
oh, I
Donna,
don't know. Rose,
Donna had her family still, and she got married, and she still stayed within her time.
But she's
Ro-
not. But she begged the doctor not to do it, and he did it anyway because he made the decision for her, and she had to go back to being the loud, airheaded gossip. I
no,
mean,
it's either that or,
she had worked so hard
but she was gonna
to
die.
become someone else. Well, maybe she wanted to. She begged him not to.
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, no, that's a tough one.
No,
Yeah,
I
and
just rewatched.
that's what makes it so tragic is that it's an impossible decision. Whereas for Amy, I don't think it was an impossible decision to choose Rory, and at least she had a choice. That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah. But they're
I
out of time. They're out of time. They're not with their family. You know, they're in a country that they wouldn't have recognized in 2015 to begin with. It's just so different from England. And you go back to the 40s, it's that much more different. And then she's got the moral, the not moral, but the constraints of society against women at
yeah,
the
but she
time.
became an author, and she said they were happy, very happy.
Well, yeah, she's not going to say we're miserable, doctor. Thanks a lot for this. I mean, she's not
But
going
we
to do
know that
that.
she's an author, right? We know that she
Yeah,
writes.
yeah,
We know
yeah.
that. I mean, so
There is a
obviously
silver
she
lining.
lived a good life. If she was a published author, she must have
Yeah,
lived some kind of good life. They adopted a kid. I mean, you know.
there's a silver lining, and I hope their knowledge of future finances was going to give them enough information to buy the right bonds and stocks, and they lived a good life. But it's still pretty damn tragic, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's
They
not
lost
tragic. I'm just saying
everything that was.
they didn't get it nearly as bad as, in my mind, as Rose and Donna did.
Yeah, no, well, I disagree. I don't
Rose
think
got what she wanted,
Rose ended up with a clone of the Doctor, and
and her.
she lived in a universe where her ex-boyfriend is the biggest badass on the planet,
And her dad.
and her father is the richest man on the planet, and she gets to be with her crazy mom.
Right.
Like all,
Poor
and
Jenna.
they basically rule the world, and
And
she
her
gets to
baby
be a
sister.
badass in that universe, and occasionally come back to our universe.
Right.
I don't shed any tears for Rose. I shed several tears for Amy and Rory, and I weep for Donna.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I think, yeah, if I had to rank them, Donna would be the absolute worst fate because she saw everything, she saw all these wonderful things, and she doesn't remember any of it, and all the progress she had made as a human being was gone.
that's the clincher.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have
Erasing
been
everything
so
you've
bad,
done.
but because she went back to being runaway bride, that Donna.
yeah,
Whereas when during her season, we see she'd come a long way since then, and her growth was exponential, And now she's back to being just like this shallow loudmouth who just wanted to get married, and that's clearly not who she wanted to be anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, if that's who she wants to be, then great. I feel great for her, but we know that's not who she wanted to be anymore.
but at least she won the lottery. That's fine.
Yeah. Oh, great.
No, but
Shallow people with money.
I just recently rewatched an episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine where Cisco finds this Bajoran artifact, and it awakens all of these like superpowers almost, where he's connected to the aliens who live in the wormhole, the Bajoran prophets, and he becomes like this actual prophet, and he's able to know things about people and see things, and it's like it becomes this super important gift, and he's able to tell the future, and they're like, well, it's killing you, so we really have to do this medical treatment to take it away from you. And he's like, no, I don't want you to. I need this. I need to live. And he passes out, and they do it anyway because his son gives consent. And when he wakes up, the like terror on his face, it's like, you took it away. You took it away from me. And it's like the worst. And I mean, the only solace for Donna is she doesn't know everything that she lost.
It almost sounded like John Travolta's Phenomenon.
Oh, Phenomenon. That movie's dumb, though.
You shut your mouth right now.
Oh no.
Oh, okay, I won't say bad. I won't say bad things about Phenomenon or Scorch Trials. I'm sorry.
You're just such an anti-Scientologist that you're dumping on all his movies.
No, I like some John Travolta movies.
Okay, dude.
I'm down with some of them. I don't like Grease, and I don't like Battlefield Earth.
Them's fighting words, man.
I'm sorry.
Grease, come on, dude.
Although every time I go do karaoke, I always get pulled into doing Grease. Yeah. Or either Summer Lovin' or the Mega Mix, because I'm the only one willing to do it with whomever. I hate that musical, but yet I know all the songs, and so I can do it pretty well. Anyway, let's talk about Clara and the Snowmen.
I don't want to.
You don't want to?
No. My whole attitude when the next episode came up was like, I don't care. I don't give a damn anymore. Like, I just didn't care. I didn't want to like Clara. I didn't want to.
Yep.
And I went into the episode with such a bad attitude that overall, that episode, it was the Christmas special, right?
Yep.
So I went in with a meh attitude, and my experience was real meh. Because if you think about it, the story's kind of weak. Although the main villain becomes very important later on.
Yeah. I've gotten there.
Yeah,
So.
some of the stuff was cool. I like Strax. I've always liked Strax. He's fun. I'm the smart one. You're the potato one.
Yeah.
The whole clever hiding of the TARDIS was pretty cool. Clara saying it's smaller on the outside instead of saying it's bigger on the inside.
I see what you did there. Oh, that's very clever.
That was cool. But I mean, losing the pawns hurt that much that I didn't want to go on. I was like a parent who just lost a child. I didn't care about life anymore.
That was the only thing that I will say that this episode had going for it, was it mirrored that sense of loss and anger. And this was the first time I've ever really identified with the character of the Doctor through this entire series, because I felt that loss, and he felt that loss. And this whole episode was him dealing with that again, and then once again he screws up and has it taken away, and it's like you just can't win for losing. And I mean, I just feel awful at the beginning of this episode. I feel awful at the end of this episode. And as much as I hated Moffat going in, I almost hated him more going out. So, yeah, as much as I enjoyed parts of the journey, and hey, I'm never gonna argue with having a disembodied Ian McKellen voice.
That was cool.
But it just, yeah. So
stupid. Maybe that's part of my whole attitude towards the episode or the Christmas special. But the Snowman looks stupid. It just didn't add up for me. And like you said, at the end, Clara dies, and you're like, my attitude was like, what the hell are we doing, man? Is everybody gonna die now every episode?
Yep.
I hated it. I really did hate it.
Yeah, having someone die during a Christmas episode airing on Christmas Day, that's just like like really messed up, you know. That bothered me. I guess I didn't mind the snowman so much, but they were just kind of there. Uh, but yeah, this a lot of things were annoying about this episode. I almost felt when I was watching it like somebody had put coal in my stocking or something, you know, because it was just kind of, you know, that's how I felt. I too was sort of smarting from the whole ending to the ponds, and you know, yeah, I think maybe if I rewatch this episode now, maybe I'd enjoy it more. You know, I did like Strax because he's just funny. Like, I didn't like the Saunterans when we first met them. I think as a group they're annoying.
Yes.
But on an individual level, when you have one and he's funny like that, yeah, that was like the highlight. Sadly, the highlight of this episode for me was how he would go with the war thing first and then try to be all cordial, you know, Victorian England, nice about things or whatever. Other than Strax, I don't know. I did like that the one word she had to use to get the doctor to start helping was pond. That was
Yeah.
kind of cool.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that was, and yeah, that was interesting, and that was the other thing that I thought that this episode had going for it was Madame Vastra and Jenny. Like, I liked seeing them again, and I want to see more of them. So that was cool, and the fact that it's always like, and this is my wife, and it's like, hey, it's Victorian England, and they're so progressive, and it's like not only like lady gay marriage, but it's like interspecies lady gay marriage. All right, way to go. True
This is what the
equality
Jim
for
Crew
all.
was talking about. You give gays the right to get married. They'll be marrying lizards by the time we know it.
Hey, that's fine. They're as long as everybody is consenting adults, like you're not hurting anybody. That's you go do you. You go do you. That's fine. Yeah.
Lady Vastra or Madame Vastra to me is one of my favorite characters, and she's part of the reason why I stuck around in this episode because she's cool. I always like it when she shows up, and Jenny's cool too. But
Which makes it so sad that they're not going to show up anymore. That really makes me mad.
Uh-oh.
Spoilers.
Well, no, this was something Moffat said in an interview. We'll never see him again.
Oh, I thought you meant because of... Okay,
No,
never mind.
no, it's nothing to do with the plot. It's what Moffat said. And I'm like, you better be lying, Moffat. You better be pulling a doctor and lying because, like, I mean, don't overuse them. But, you know, if they showed up once a season, I'd be happy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's exactly how you want to do it. Like, it's always good to take the doctor back to that period in time or bring them out of it.
And I like having someone like Madame Vastra who can kind of go toe-to-toe with him a little bit, you know, like not as an adversary like the Master or something, but as an ally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and she really puts it to him and says, you know, hey, you've been spending all of this time moping, essentially, and I understand what you're going through, but, you know, stuff's about to get real, and we gotta get on this. And, you know, but at the same time, she's also very protective of him as a friend, and so when Clara's trying to enlist his aid, like, she's like, no, okay, I'm going to sit you down, and you have to play by my rules and give me one-word answers so that I can relay your message to the doctor. And, you know, she's triaging these things so that he's not overwhelmed. But she does take to him the things that she thinks are important. So I like that about that's a true friend and a true ally. So, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I like that she's older than him and wiser in many aspects.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think we all, this is like the one thing we all really, really agree on in this episode.
Madame Vastra.
Is that Madame Vastra is awesome. And so I hope that Moffat changes his mind, because he did say in an interview that we'll not see them, we won't see them anymore. ever, and well, at least as long as he's the showrunner, which who knows how long it'll be. So, I don't know. I hope he changes his mind because I mean we do get to see them again after this, Andy. Don't worry. But it's just
Okay.
But after their last appearance, that'll be it.
Well, that makes me very sad, but
Yeah.
all that has to happen is Moffat has to announce his retirement, and then we start working for the BBC and start writing one episode every season that includes Madame Vastra and Strax.
Yes. We'll make the companion a male model.
I'd be down with that.
I'd be down with the male companion just because it would be
After he
a
spent
whole
the
new
first part of his life
dimension.
as a gigolo.
Oh, well, I don't know about a gigolo. We don't want all kinds of sugar mamas on the TARDIS or something.
This is a kids show. Maybe not a.
Supposedly.
It's not a kid show anymore. No, Doctor
it's
Who
not.
is not a kid show.
And the Angels in Manhattan cemented that in my
Right.
mind. Like if we were already going pretty dark in the Moffat area, but for me that was because that's just nightmare fuel. All the things that happened in that episode.
That's true.
Little kids under, I would say 12 and under might have some problems with that episode.
Yeah.
And yesterday's season premiere was definitely shaky ground for kids.
Oh, just the introduction before the
Right.
credits would have given me nightmares as a kid. I mean,
Yeah. And then
holy crap.
the snake person.
Yeah.
That was freaky as hell and very, very cool. Which Andy has no idea what we're talking about.
No, but it's.
You're just
I think
making
you're
me want to
really
catch up
love
so
this
bad.
episode. This last night's episode was so much fun. It was the most fun I've had with Doctor Who in a really long time.
And it's dark. It's very dark. So
Yeah, and they managed to balance perfectly. That's the thing, because that's not always been a hallmark of Doctor Who, being able to balance the light and the dark when they did go dark. But they did it well. They did it really well last night. It was fun, but interesting, mysterious, and dark. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm going to try and catch up as quickly as I can because I really want to get to this 9th season. So by next week, I'm definitely going to be to the end of season 7. And maybe I'll be able to do Day of the Doctor, Time of the Doctor. We'll see if I get to those. And then hopefully the week after that we can do the Capaldi season, and then by the time episode 4 or 5 is airing, then I'll be all caught up. That's my hope, and we'll try and do that. But until then, we're gonna keep going on this. Thanks both of you, Mark and Melissa, for being here and telling us all about the first episode, because obviously I didn't see it. Thanks to everyone at Big Shiny Robot for hosting our website and the podcast. And you can go there every week and read either Rebecca Frost or one of our other writers writing up their weekly review of it if you want to hear their views on it. But until then, we will see you all next time.
Bye-bye, everyone.
And that's over.